I believe in aliens. I believe in exorcism. Because you know that what trauma's like because you've been through it, and that's why you're like that. Society today where it's like, how do I fix this the fastest I can fix it? Why do you need to be surrounded by shit all the time? Like, why?
Welcome to Tea with Tori. I'm your host, Tori, and today the tea is hot.
What's up, spillers? Welcome to a new episode of Tea with Tori. I'm your host, Tori, and today I have a very special guest. I have Jessica.
Hi, everybody.
Jessica, please tell the spillers who you are, what you do, just a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Jessica Cruz. I am the founder and CEO of Vegan Street Fair, which is the largest vegan festival in the world. Also, it's a sister market, Vegan Exchange. It's been going on since 2015 or so in LA, and lots of other projects in the works. So we're really excited to continue doing what we do, which is do really cool vegan events.
I love that. What made you start that? Obviously, you were vegan and wanted to like have the world join you, but like, what was your initial like? I'm going to do a street fair.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm from New York originally. So as you know,
hell yeah, she is.
You know, like New York's so funny because you can like step out of the subway and boom, there's a street fair in front of you. You didn't even know it was going to be there.
Everywhere.
Like,
Farmers market, street fairs, everywhere.
All over the place. And you're like, what the hell? This wasn't here yesterday. And you just trip on it. And then you spend $100 just on accident. But it's really about the culture. So like I used to go to San Gennaro all the time. And San Gennaro is this Italian festival that happens every year for like 2 weeks. So good. And it's so good. And the energy's so good. And the music and the food and the people. It's like you feel Italian for the day even if you're not. And I kind of wanted a similar feeling like that for veganism. Like, come enjoy veganism. You don't have to be vegan to enjoy it. It's just a good vibe, and it has zero like intimidating factor at all. Nobody's making you feel bad about your lifestyle. Nobody's making you watch graphic imagery. I hate that shit.
Dude.
I'm like, if you're gonna go vegan, do it because you want to, not because someone showed you something really terrible. And that works for some people, like rock on, but it's just not like my method. It's not my method. I don't roll that way. So I really just wanted to do something that celebrated veganism from the perspective of anybody can do this. It doesn't need to, you don't need to be vegan. You could just eat vegan for the day. You could just come enjoy with a friend. You don't have to like go all in one time.
Yeah.
Come in and like feel the vibe, feel good about it, and walk away maybe one day being like, damn, that was vegan. I could do vegan. You know what I mean?
That's what happened to me. I was like, I'm going to do it for a week. I'm going to see how I feel. And now like I go back and forth just based on like supply demand. Like if I'm in the middle of Utah, because I travel so much and the only options are like nothing vegan. Like you're eating the celery from the buffalo chicken like that. I'm not going to not eat food to be vegan yet. I haven't gotten that far, but I'm reading the book How Not to Die. Ooh. So that's kind of lining it up for me in a way of like, do you want to live or die? That's the choices you make at the table are what's going to determine that. So it's kind of been setting it up more for me, like, not that I can't have those things, but that I don't even want them because I don't want them to do that damage to my body.
For sure.
And yes, I'm about to go to Miami. I'm probably going to eat some freaking famous house of mac and cheese, but at the end of the day, any type of like limiting of animal products I feel like is just beneficial to you.
I could not agree more. And that's the thing, you don't have to go all in if you don't want to. You
Literally.
can make baby steps. You can read these books and go like, oh, this is impacting me for this reason. Some people do it for health, some people do it for ethics. You know, veganism is an ethical position. It has nothing to do with food, really, and that sounds crazy. So it's like any small steps are good steps. And if you're limiting the amount of cholesterol you're putting in your body and mercury, because I mean, honestly speaking, let me tell you something. Like, even if I wasn't vegan, I would stay the. Can I curse?
Yes.
Okay.
Please do.
I would stay the fuck away from fish because I'm like, the mercury is bananas. I don't want that in my body. So it's just like, just thinking about these things from a holistic perspective, like, is this really something that I want to put inside of my body? And the answer typically is no.
Yeah.
So I like that you're making those little steps. It doesn't have to be this huge grand thing if you're not ready for that.
I think that's what like scares a lot of people off of things a lot. Is like, oh, like you see people, oh, you say you're vegan, but look, you're eating blah, blah, blah. Like everyone pointing fingers at everyone. It's like, okay, I'm sure there's a lot of shit that you do in your life that isn't the healthiest. Like, you're going to point at me for eating a burger while you, like, chain smoke cigarettes, even though you're vegan. Like, we all have vices. And that definitely, for me, was, like, a scary thing of I felt like I had to do, like, all or nothing. Because, like, you tell someone you're a vegan and they see you not eat vegan one time, they're like, no, you're not. You're a fake vegan. I'm like, no, I usually choose vegan options. I would prefer to be vegan, but I'm not going to starve myself. I'm not going to, like, decrease my joy and happiness. If like it's someone's birthday and they have a cake, I'll take a bite of the cake. Like I'm not gonna like kill myself over this.
Right.
And I shouldn't have to, and I shouldn't have to feel that restrictive, because I've been through like eating disorders and different things where I've restricted before in my life. So I never wanted something like a food choice, like going vegan, to make me feel like that again. So I had to like kind of take my own power and like, I want to be healthier. I want to live longer. I want to live longer, healthier years. Because, yeah, you can live to 80, 90, 100 years old, but what if the last 20 years is battling health crises and you're in a wheelchair and you're going back and forth from the hospital, living in the hospital basically by the end? Like, I don't want to live from 90 to 100 in a hospital because I chose to eat McDonald's when I was 25. Like, that's not something that I want to do. This is your episode today, isn't it?
It's you. Hi, all about you.
Always. Always about you. This is why you go over here.
I mean, I really like that you made so many great points to talk about too, because a lot of times people go vegan because of health, right? So like you see people doing a plant-based diet and they're like, we're vegan, but it's not actually vegan. What you're doing is you're just trying to eat more healthy, which is nice, and it is plant-based. But there's a difference, right? So really quickly, a quick primer on veganism. It is a liberation movement to liberate animals. It has zero to do with diet, has zero to do with health. It has everything to do with like, this is a marginalized group of beings that we are trying to basically liberate from their horrible conditions. And so what I tend to see a lot, especially in influencers and people who have huge platforms, is they go vegan, but they're not actually going vegan. These are people who are really doing it from the perspective of, I'm doing it because I want to lose weight. I'm doing it because whatever. I mean, there was stories left and right of, I don't even remember this guy's name, but he was like drinking his own pee in the name of veganism. And I was like, bro, I
don't know how that helps the animals.
I had to, this is what I'm saying. And I'm like, this is what you're telling people to do. And then you're just fucking it all up for everyone, because then they go, I'm not vegan anymore. I went backwards. Like, you can't actually do that. Like, once you see veganism from the ethical perspective, you can't actually go back. It's not, it's like saying, I don't want to use any horrible terminology, but it's like, if you see something horrible, like exploitation, like, I cannot exploit children, therefore I'm not going to buy this thing. And then all of a sudden one day you're like, oh, fuck it, I don't give a fuck about the child. You really, like, that's not, you can't really do that. So anyway, I really like that you brought this up about, like, eating disorders and things like that. So if anybody out there is interested in veganism, please understand, like, you can eat vegan anything. You can eat vegan tacos, vegan burgers, vegan hot dogs and cupcakes and cookies. And it's just about liberating animals. So if you want to do it more healthy, you can also do that too. So it's both things. Don't get confused, because then you're going to get really fucked up, and then you're going to find something on YouTube and be like, oh, I should drink my own pee. And
Literally.
then
I'm
we're
not
gonna
a
have
vegan.
problem. Right.
I feel like there's kind of this rabbit hole where it's like people get so... You have people that go too far with things, with everything.
Yes.
There's people that go too far in every direction, but I feel like it's when you don't know much about a certain demographic of people, you kind of only see the extremists and you think that's what it is.
Correct.
So I saw this one argument. I was like, because I've been researching. I started out pescatarian when I was like 16 for a diet purpose. And I was like, I feel so much better like this. I'm just going to not eat meat. And be fine with that. So I've been on this kick for a very long time. I was born with my mom vegetarian, so I was vegetarian my first few years. Like, this has always been something that's in my life. And I just feel like people kind of see these extremists and they're like, oh, well, no matter how hard I try, they're still going to find something that's not vegan. Like, I was like, oh, I'm doing plant-based, blah, blah, blah. And I like to share my recipes and stuff. I put honey in something. Someone's like, you're not vegan. I was like, what are you talking about? There's no meat. And like, I was a kid at this point. I'm like 18 or some shit, like new with doing all these things. I'm like, no animals were harmed in the making of this. Like, what are you talking about? They're like, no, because it's still an animal product because it came from a bee. And I was like, okay, like, I understand where you're coming from, but like, are we harming the bees doing this? Like, I don't know there's a lot with the bees. There's a lot happening with the bees, the bee community. I don't want to anger you guys.
Yeah,
stingers.
Bee community, relax. We're
relax. I know the bees are in danger. They do a lot of important things. I'm not saying fuck the bees. I'm saying, like, am I not someone that cares about holistic health and all these things if I use honey? I really still don't know the answer to that.
It's definitely tricky. I mean, honey isn't vegan. Just
okay.
Period. Only because it does come from an animal. And when you look at how they extract honey, they're manipulating the entire ecosystem of a hive in
Is
order
it
to do that.
worse than the dairy industry? Or like about the same?
It's pretty much about the same.
Ouch.
They'll replace the queens. They will give them sugar water instead of the honey. They when they're stripping the honey from the combs, they're ripping their wings off. I mean, it's pretty fucking brutal. But it also depends on. It's all relative, right?
Yeah.
Like what's worse or what's not. I mean, for me, it's like exploitation is exploitation. Like whether it's a non-human animal or a human animal. And so, but to your point, and not to belabor this, but it's like. Okay, great. Now you know. Honey's not vegan.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The fucking problem for me is that typically the vegan community is so, like, perfectionist about veganism.
Yeah.
And they make it hard for everyone to want to join because, like, I'll be honest with you. How about this? The shoes that I'm wearing are 12 years old. They are leather. This thing just came out. So there's a section or a faction of vegans that would probably tell me I'm not vegan because I'm wearing leather shoes.
Yeah.
For starters, you can see right here. You see this little thing right here? This is how old these shoes are.
Oh my God.
I wear my fucking shoes until I cannot wear them anymore. It's
Yeah.
already been done. It's not like I went out of my way to buy leather. I have it. I'm going to wear it until I can't wear it anymore, right? But it's things like that where people just, there's a certain type of vegan, and I really discourage people from being this way because it shows people that it's never good enough.
Yeah.
And then so what? It's like, who wins here?
Literally.
Who fucking wins? Like, is this look how vegan I am Olympics? I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care how vegan you are. I don't care how vegan you are. Every little thing matters. And I think if we kind of met people where they were, like, oh, hey, I see you're using honey. I don't know if you know this. Like, you can come at that from such a different perspective.
Like, you're not vegan.
Oh my God. It's
Like, I didn't even know. I literally, like, that was how I received the information that honey was probably not vegan, was someone yelling at me because I didn't know it. And I'm like, listen, I'm here trying to, like, change and, like, do these things in the progressive direction. And now I'm feeling very discouraged.
Right. Or you probably went the opposite way and you were like, I'm going to have all the honey in the world because fuck you. Because, like, that's what people do. It's like the second you start calling people out in a way that's not constructive, it doesn't help anybody. It just puts up a wall.
100%.
And so for me, like, that's my biggest issue with the vegan community. That's why I do the things I do the way I do it. Because I'm like, I'm just going to plant seeds. And if they grow, they grow. And if they don't, they don't. But I'm not going to beat it over the head. Like, I'm not going to beat you over the head about it. I'm just going to let you make the choice and give you so many opportunities to be like, oh, this is really good. Like, I can do veganism. Because a lot of times people just think it's bland.
Yep.
Tofu, salads, and, like, they don't know what to eat. It's like, what do I eat? Here you go.
How do I get my protein?
That was so great. So great.
I'm like, you should be way more worried about your fiber, to be honest. I'm so serious. Like, you should really be so much more worried about your fiber if you actually are talking about the health of your body.
The facts right there. These are facts.
And, like, the minerals and the vitamins and so many other things other than protein, which you can still get from those non-animal products.
100%. And you get it everywhere. And vegetables have protein too.
Yep.
And most of the time people aren't eating veggies, And then let's just throw in, like, people doing keto. And
That's
it's
so
like,
terrifying.
Fucker. So now you're not eating vegetables or fruit. Like, what?
I did keto.
Oy. And?
I lost a bunch of weight really quickly.
Of course.
I felt like complete shit. Ugh. And then I started eating a regular diet again and I gained it all back.
There you go.
Because my body wasn't in starvation, weird-ass ketosis mode.
I'm sorry.
Like, literally.
I'm glad you're out
I've done so many diets. It's actually insane. Like, it's actually insane. That's how I know, like, when something feels good in my body and when something doesn't. I'm not that person that's like, oh, why is my stomach hurt? I'm like, I know that I ate some shit I wasn't supposed to eat, and I knew when I was eating it exactly what it was going to make me feel because I've been in the place where I didn't eat for 4 days, and I only ate that one thing. And that's how my body felt. Like, it's never a mystery to me. Or when people are like, I don't know how I gained so much weight. Like, you gained weight because you ate a lot of food. No one came into your house and, like, injected your lettuce leaves with fat overnight. Like, that's not happening. So you made a conscious effort to not do a healthy lifestyle. You're overeating. You're under working out. And that's how you gained weight. Like, I've never been one of those people like, I have no idea, like, victim mentality. How did I get here? I know how I got here. I put myself here. And I have the power to get myself out. So have you always been vegan?
No, so I went vegan in 2011, 2010. It was during a trip to SeaWorld which typically isn't how people enter veganism. Like I said, people typically enter it through health, food, and health, right?
Which is technically plant-based. They technically go plant-based. Because you can be plant-based, from what I understand from this conversation, but not be vegan.
Boom! Look at how easy that was.
I didn't know that until this very moment right here.
There you go.
Literally. I was like, I think vegan and plant-based are just the same thing. It's just the same, different word for the same thing.
Right. So plant-based is a diet. Like, it's just, you're eating plants, but you don't really give a shit about the animals. You're not here doing this for the animals. You're doing it for you.
Yeah.
It's a very, like, me-centered, which is fine. Do that. I don't care. It's fine.
Whatever purpose, the animals still get saved.
That's what I'm saying. It's like a net positive as far as I'm concerned, but you can get out of that. Like, pretty, you know, like you can step outside of that. I'm not plant-based anymore. I'm eating meat again or whatever.
Yeah.
Versus veganism, where it is all ethics-based. So it's not about me, it's about them. So that's why a lot of the arguments that we hear sometimes are, I'll post things on my page that's like, you know, burger or fatty french fries or whatever. And they're like, just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's healthy. And I love that fucking comment because I hate it. Because it's like...
no one say it was supposed to be healthy.
That's the point, actually. Though. Like, yeah, I'm like, yes, that's the point. Because it's not supposed to be healthy. But there's documentaries out there that kind of paint it that way. So I understand why people are confused. And that's kind of my whole mission with what I do is like, just trying to get people to understand that whatever avenue you choose doesn't really matter. Like whether you're plant-based for a minute or whether you're vegan for life, it's like, do this because it feels good for you or it feels good to do something for others, but don't do it because you saw something online and you're like, okay, I'm gonna lose a lot of weight now because this vegan person, again, I don't know why I keep talking about drinking pee because who the fuck really does this, but like really people
apparently
do this.
Someone freaking did this.
Lots of people do this.
I mean, Kesha went on an interview and said that she drank her pee because she just wanted to know what it tasted like. I'd have never had that desire to understand the taste of my pee, but you know, I guess some people do.
I mean, I'm not gonna shame you for that if that's
what you're doing.
Vibe. But also, vegans don't do that.
Interesting. Like that's something that a vegan person can do, but it's not something that you must do to be vegan.
Oh, see,
there it is.
We're just quantifying everything now. So I went to SeaWorld and I like swam with the dolphins. And I took photos, and a friend of mine who's not vegan at all was like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but... And he came at me from a really good, like a really loving, great place. And he said, I don't know if you know this, but
Shit ain't good.
Shit ain't good. He's like, they're enslaved in there. And I was like, drinking the Kool-Aid at the time. I was like, that's bullshit. I was like,
look at them with their trainers. They love their trainers. Right. It's such a beautiful experience. They're riding around.
Right.
They're so happy.
They have big smiles on their faces.
Literally.
Bro. So I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to go on Google and find all the good things that SeaWorld does. And let me tell you, I did the complete fucking opposite. And it was like an overnight switch because what I learned about orcas and whales, dolphins, like the whole marine world that is basically kept in these tiny enclosures for entertainment purposes is that they're so smart that they will try to ram their heads against the wall as hard as possible to kill themselves. Because they are smart and they're like, I don't belong here and I don't know how to get out of this. They're on antidepressants. They've got like sores on all of their parts. It's just fucked up. So when I read this, I was just a bawling mess. And I was like, nope, I don't ever want anything to ever suffer from my enjoyment ever again. And so that's how it started. And I think I was vegan like 8 months, hardcore, and I went back home to the Bronx. I'm in the Bronx, and I was like, I hadn't been home in years, and I really needed a slice of pizza, like from my favorite place, just one last time, like just get it out of the way. And let me tell you something, I got so fucking sick just from that slice of pizza because cheese just does damage to your body. Because when you think about it, and I'm not proselytizing, and I'm not sitting here telling you should be vegan or anything like that, when you think about dairy, what is it designed for? It's designed to grow a fucking calf that's like 80 pounds when it comes out, and it's growing at an exponential rate. And we are not cows.
Nope.
We're not cows.
No, we ain't.
So like when you have like bubble guts and when you're sick and when you're in the bathroom because you're fucked up over cheese, that's probably because you're not a baby cow.
Unless you are.
Maybe you are. Baby cows out there, rock on.
I don't know how you're watching this, but power to you. I literally just had this conversation. I had Tara, the owner of Pura Vida, on here.
Oh, and my heart.
Bro.
I fucking love her to death.
Another East Coaster. We love it. I was like, who decided that every other, like, baby's milk from a mother is disgusting, you can't drink it, but you can drink this one animal's baby milk?
What the fuck?
Like, you're going to go to your friend, you're going to drink her breast milk and put it in your cereal? Like, no, you're not. You're going to go to, like, get goat milk or pig milk. Like, people would be disgusted if you handed them a glass of dog milk.
Right.
But we're drinking cow milk, and it's just normalized.
Normalized.
Who normalized it? Who was that weirdo in the farm?
Who's the first person to do
Who's the
this?
first person that was like, this one is the best? Like, did they squeeze all the udders of all the farm animals and, like, that was the best one? I don't know. Another thing that fucked me up with dairy is how much mucus is in it even when it gets to you. And that's taking a whole shit ton of it out. But there's still always mucus in it. Literally, when I found this out, I would see my brother drinking a glass of milk. I'd be like, you're drinking mucus. You're like, stop it! Stop it! You say this all the time. I know you want me to stop drinking. I'm like, you're drinking mucus.
And it's so much
nasty.
worse. And it's so much worse, too, because there's pus in there. There's blood in there. There's cells in there of all kinds. And, like, you could pasteurize till the cows come home. You like how I did that? And it's... Dad jokes.
I love it.
And it doesn't fucking matter. You're still ingesting that. You're still ingesting it. And it's the same with meat, too. Because, you know, I don't know if you know this, y'all, but, like, animals also get cancer. And they're not sitting there screening for cancer. But what they're going to do when they see tumors is they're going to cut it out and they're going to feed that shit to you.
Yep.
And so again, like, I'm not sitting here telling y'all you need to be vegan. I'm just telling you,
Facts.
Educate yourself on what the fuck you're eating, because at the end of the day, you are putting that into your body and then you wonder why you're 70, 60, 50 or whatever and you're having all of these issues. It's because they're not feeding you things that are good for you or that are meant for your body. Like, you wouldn't eat cancer cells, would you? Like, you wouldn't purposefully go eat pus. I don't feel like you would. Maybe you would. Again, I'm not gonna shame you if that's your vibe, but, like,
I don't think
ew.
that would happen.
Fucking ew. I don't know.
And that's the thing with this freaking book that I'm reading, because I just feel like the more information I know, the closer and closer I get to, like, going full, like, don't even put that shit near me type vibe. The shit that I found out about the chicken industry, the salmonella, the fecal matter that is just always there. They had people clean their kitchens after cooking chicken.
Oh, God.
And still extreme amounts of salmonella and fecal matter. They're like, all right, y'all weren't cleaning properly. We're going to have you clean with bleach. Had them clean with bleach. Still, there was a lawsuit that they should not be able to sell chicken with salmonella or fecal matter. The response from the meat industry was, we wouldn't be able to turn a profit. And that was acceptable.
Of course it was.
I'm sorry, what? You can what? You can give me food with poop on it just because you can't make money if I don't have food with poop on it? I'm not understanding. And then it gets even worse when you have, like, oh, it's organic.
Listen.
It's grass-fed. Aren't all cows grass-fed? Isn't that all of... I mean, how are you...
They're not, sadly. They're fucking fed corn and soy and shit that they're not meant to eat.
Which is crazy, because you could just put a cow in a grass field and never have to pay for food for it for its life.
But that's the thing, is these CAFOs, and I don't even know what that term means. It's like whatever, these giant farms for cows. There's a phrase for that. There's no grass. It's just dirt, because they have these giant cows, like, trampling on the ground. There's no grass. So they're feeding them, and soy is one of the largest crops that we grow, and so that's what they're feeding to these cows. And again, these are things that they're not meant to be eating.
Yeah.
So I don't know why these keep falling out. But so they're not eating grass, and so that's why it's a thing for people.
You might have them in the wrong ears.
Do I? No, it's because I have really tiny ears.
That might also be it.
This is the right.
That is the right. You just have small ass
Very
ears.
tiny ass fucking ears. And my left one's somehow smaller. You know how you have.
Oh my gosh, she's on 2 pillows right now, and my guests are normally on 1. She's on 2 pillows, and we're the same height.
I'm 4'11", so yeah.
She's very tiny.
I'm little.
So I think kind of a fun thing about you is that you had an app, and that's kind of where you came, like, had your database to be sending out all these people to come to a vegan fair. So what was your idea behind the app? When did you start it? Why are you no longer participating in it?
So the year I went vegan, I went back home to New York for 4 months to finish my degree at NYU, because I had like 8 credits to finish. So I went back, and it was my first time in my own city as a vegan, which is very exciting, because, like, you know all your haunts, right? Like, you know all the places to go. I knew where to get 25-cent beer and wings. I knew where to get the best steak. I knew where to get everything, and I knew all the owners and all the bartenders. Like, I knew everybody, because I used to bartend. And so being newly vegan in New York was like really exciting, and I was like, I want to try as many veganist places as possible because I'm here for the first time as a vegan, basically, like brand new. So I was using the apps that existed at the time, you know, Happy Cow, and I love them. Whatever existed, Yelp and what have you. And sometimes they would send me places that didn't exist or that were closed or their hours were off. And like, I'd be on a subway for 45 minutes
to go there.
To go to fucking Brooklyn, and the place would be shut down. And it drove me a little crazy. So I was like, you know what, fuck this. And I have no experience with app development whatsoever. I mean, my major in college was art history. So like, I'm gonna make an app.
Literally.
Like, what the fuck? Like, okay, sure, do that. And so
it's a gap in the market. You noticed it.
I did. I noticed it. I was like, I'm gonna make an app. Fuck it. So for like 3 or 4 years, we were building an app. My ex-husband and I, we hired a developer. We put in like 15 grand. We hired a bunch of people to populate the database. Long story short, the developer kind of just fell off and the app disappeared. But in the process of doing that, I had this long database of places in LA specifically that were vegan or vegan friendly, and I was like, fuck, like I could live here for 10 years and never try them all. So I saw this huge database and I thought to myself, well shit, I could live here for 10 years and never try them all. So why don't I just create an event where they all come to me instead? And that's literally how Vegan Street Fair was born. And it was, you know, with this New York City feel to it, because I really wanted people to, like, I didn't see anything like that in LA. I didn't see community building. And that's what I wanted for the vegan community. And maybe partially because I was looking for a community at that time, because at this time I had been in LA for only 5 years and I was still kind of trying to find my way and like find my people. And now that I was newly vegan, I was like, oh, these are my people. Like, let's build a community around them. Yeah. So at that time, there was only 2 vegan events in LA, period. Now there's like hundreds, which is nuts. And those 2 were paid events. You had to pay to get in. And so I did everything flipped. I was like, I want it to be free because I want it to be accessible. I made sure all the vendors only had, when it first started, it was every vendor had to have only $3 options, and that was it. They couldn't have anything more than that. And that was like my thing. Like, that was what made Vegan Street Fair so special, because it was like, the idea being somebody who doesn't know what veganism is, you know, looks at this thing and they trip on it, right? As we were talking about earlier. They've got $3 in their pocket and they try something really fucking good. Yeah. And they go, wow, that's vegan? Like, I can do vegan. So that was the whole idea behind it. And then it kind of just grew into this really beautifully diverse, accessible, just powerhouse of an event. Like, people come from all over the world just to go to Vegan Street Fair. Like, we have a map that is a like world map, and we have tiny little dots, and people will put like where they traveled from, and damn near every single country was represented across the world.
That's amazing.
It's fucking cool. And so it's like, all right, we're doing something good here. You know, we're doing something that kind of surpassed even my expectations, and you just have to go with it at that point. You don't have a choice. Yeah. Like, it kind of just took off, and I was like, all right, I'm strapped to this rocket ship. Let's go. And it's been great ever since. And now we have like Vegan Street Fair's Baby, which is Vegan Exchange and happens every single Sunday. And that's really nice too, but it's a lot smaller, a lot more manageable. People wanted something more regular, so I was like, fuck it, let's do it. And that's been about 3 years,
So how often do you do the Vegan Exchange?
That's every Sunday.
And then the Vegan Street Fair you do?
So Vegan Street Fair is once a year. Okay. It's massive. There's 200 vendors, 60,000 people from all over the world. It's 1 mile worth of streets, DJs, inflatables. Like, it's crazy. You didn't go to that one, huh? Damn, you would have loved it.
That's what my parents, I think, found that one. Yeah. And then they were like, well, there's one every Sunday that's a little bit smaller. You have to come. And there were like 2 weeks that I was like supposed to go and I didn't go. And then I finally went. I was like, this is fucking incredible. This is so amazing. I ate so much food. I came back so fat and happy and had so much food with me. Those cookies were to die for. Freaking ridiculous. I still have to ask you because I'm starting like a whole holistic kind of resell line where I want to do holistic practices where I like have recommendations for your physical, your emotional, your intellectual, and your spiritual. And one of the brands that I actually found at your street fair that I cannot remember who they are, they make sage bundles.
So there's Nova Sage. We have, I'm sure
it was an African American woman. They do it with like crystals. She was at the one that I was at.
It's got to be Nova Sage.
It might be.
Is she like short hair?
I think so.
Yeah, Jessica.
I was just like, I want to talk to her about potentially having, because I was looking like sourcing different things. So I don't want to manufacture everything. I want to highlight different brands that I already trust and believe in. So I was like, though I already bought something from them. I loved it. Like, I would love to have those available from like my platform. So that was one I have to talk to you about.
Yeah, hell yeah. And that's to the point too, like that's the other thing is like I focus so heavily on inclusion and diversity at my events. Like if I don't know if you noticed it, but we may have talked about it, but it's like everyone is so purposefully chosen, because when I used to go to vegan events before I was like doing events, I never saw myself represented anywhere.
It looked like a little hipster fest.
A little hipster fest. Like
Yeah.
old white dudes that like, you know, didn't wear deodorant and smell like patchouli and like rock on little old dudes who do that. But like, that's not what I look like.
Yeah.
And therefore also the food doesn't taste like what I'm used to. And so I really made a point to like make sure that when you walk into any single one of my events, down to the vendors, down to the staff, like you are seeing yourself represented in everything. Your body type, your gender, your color, your religion, all of it, your sexual orientation. Like you can see yourself in this movement. So when you say like it was a black woman, I'm like, girl, that's literally
like,
all
it's
my
all
vendors.
of them. And I love that though. Do you know how many times I would probably say that in a normal setting and they'd be like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about, because they have one.
Just one.
The token.
The token.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the things that I was like, of course, because I'm from New York, I don't off the bat notice when it's like that, because that's just how it is in New York. Like you walk down a street, there's a taco place, there's a Chinese restaurant, and then there's freaking Ethiopian food around the corner. Like I'm so grateful that I grew up in a place that was so inclusive that I really only notice when it's not that way. Correct. Like if I would have gone there and it would have been the opposite, I would have been like, well, there's a lot of this is a certain way over here. Like, that's fine, but like, this is really one way. Mm-hmm. And being biracial, like, I feel like I wind up in both scenarios where it's like, I wind up in both settings where it's like, no one's represented, or it's like, oh, wow, everyone's represented, and this is amazing, and I love this.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just what it is. And growing up in New York, like, I don't even think I realized it, but when you feel that shit, it is palpable. Like, when I would walk into a vegan event and I did not feel welcome, oh my God.
People are like, why are you here? You're like, I chose to come here and be here to be in a community of like-minded people. I didn't know that my skin color mattered for that. Right. I didn't know that we needed to be a certain skin color to save the animals.
Correct.
Who are all different colors.
Yes. Which, not to throw a tangent in there, but that's the other reason I get really pissed off at people being like, oh, fat people can't be vegan, or like fat people are terrible representations of veganism, right? They always go into that point, like, just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's healthy, because they see a body that doesn't represent veganism. And I'm like, let me fucking ask you something. Do you need to look a certain way to fight for Black lives? Do you need to look a certain way to fight for LGBTQIA plus people? Do you need to look a certain way to do any of the fucking work that is built on liberation? The answer is no. So why is it any different with veganism? I don't understand this, and it drives me nuts. So it's like, you can be any shape, any size, any color to liberate animals. You don't need to look a certain way. Like, I don't give a fuck if I'm not a good representation of veganism for you, because you expect me to be this skinny whatever. I know that I'm a good representation of veganism because I am living it every single day. And that's, again, where the, like, perfectionism comes into play. Because it's like, you're just deterring people from wanting to do this. And nobody wins. So, again, to the point of why I fight so hard to make sure, like, the vendors are very diverse. Like, and I don't even like to use that word anymore, because it's just standard. Yeah. It's fucking standard for me. Like, diverse. What does that mean? We're the global majority.
I think a lot of people probably get caught up on that because, just like I didn't before this podcast, they don't understand that there's plant-based and there's vegan. Mm-hmm. And vegan is wanting to save the animals, and plant-based is wanting to live a healthier life for what you're eating. So you look at someone that seems unhealthy by your standards, or by American standards, or whatever standard you're judging them by, and you're like, there's no way they're living this healthy life. This plant-based is what you're actually thinking in your head. There's no way they're living this plant-based lifestyle if they look this unhealthy, because what I've been preached my whole life is that you go vegan to be healthy, which is not the case. You go plant-based to be healthy. You go vegan to save the animals. And I think that is, like, probably what I'm going to title this freaking episode, because it's so important. It's so important to address the differences, because it's literally what's keeping people from either eating healthy or feeling like they belong in a community. That's two different communities.
Correct.
They can be together, but those are two completely different communities, and it's being completely blended just because people aren't educated. People don't know.
Exactly.
And people, a lot of times, would rather sit in their not knowing than step out of the box and figure out, oh, maybe what I think and maybe what I've been told isn't true. And maybe I should do the education myself. That's why people will say like rude ass shit about my podcast. I'm like, listen, I don't really care. First of all, if you're a man and you're mad about my podcast, if you haven't noticed, I don't interview men. This is not for y'all. This is for some girl sitting in the middle of Kansas that has no idea that she can not marry her childhood sweetheart and have a kid at 18 and live in her hometown and work at Walmart. Not shading anyone that does, but it's showing people that there are options. I love talking to women and just hearing how they got to where they are, just to show someone like, maybe you feel alone right now. Maybe you feel like, oh, I'm here and I live in Texas and everyone eats meat here and I advocate for animals and blah, blah, blah. But people don't think I'm a vegan. No one needs to think you're a vegan. No one needs to think you're anything other than what you are. You're the only one that knows what the fuck you are and what you care about and how you want to be and think and feel and look. So at the end of the day, I think the real message is fuck everyone.
Fuck everyone. Do whatever makes your heart happy, whatever fucking title you like. You just like dropped like a whole ass sermon, by the way, and I'm very appreciative of it.
It happens sometimes. I go off on crazy tangents. I'm like, I need to say this, and I don't know why, but it's coming out, and you can either listen to it or you cannot. I think one of my favorite posts that I saw from you was, if you see me happy, mind your business. And I was like, I've never heard that before. I fucking love that, because people love to see you down because misery loves company. It makes other people feel better about themselves when you're down. So people tend to see you doing well or promoting that you're happy, and you get either like you're being fake or you're being this, you're being that. Why are you always so loud? Why are you this? Why are you that? And it's like, because I'm confident in myself and I'm happy and I'm just living. I don't understand why that's upsetting you so much. And the only thing that I can kind of figure out is like, you're pushing the buttons of people that wish that they could do the same. So they start to hate on you and try to put you back in the box because that's where they are. That's where they're comfortable. They're comfortable in their discomfort and they like love it there. And they're like, why would you ever want to leave? You doing it shows me that like I could do it if I want to, and kind of calls out the fact that I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very hard thing.
Yeah, people don't like it. People don't like. I think a lot of times when I see things like that, especially with like women, it just. This is mostly to women. I mean, I know you've experienced it
100%.
probably fucking every day of your life.
Yep.
It's like the patriarchy, whatever the fuck, they just want to cut us down to tiny little bits and pieces because it's easier to digest us this way. And it's like, fucking let them choke. Like, I am not going to make myself smaller for you. I'm not going to change how I do my podcast because some dude fucking thinks that it should be some way. You're unhappy with yourself. Don't project that onto me. I talk about this a lot, but it's like, heal your traumas, because that's got to be some form of trauma that these people are dealing with.
100%.
Right? Don't bleed that shit onto other people, whether it's in person or online.
All the time.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I say that all the time.
Yes.
Everyone has trauma. Your job is to not let your trauma bleed onto someone else and give them more trauma.
Exactly.
Because now you got karma then.
Oof.
And you don't want that.
You're fucked. Like, you're going to have to deal with that at some point. But that's the thing, is like people will absolutely try to bring you down to their level because they're uncomfortable, because we're mirrors.
Yep.
A lot of the time, especially on social media. And this is a mirror. And so when someone is triggered by their traumas and they're looking in the mirror, they have to do something to bring us down.
Yep.
And the most empowering thing I think we could do as women, as people, is say fuck you. Like, I don't give a shit. I have been living authentically myself for the past 2 years, and I know that sounds crazy because you would think that I've been like this forever. No. Lots of therapy, lots of like owning who I am as a person, and lots of being around other women that are also empowering, because I think that is like an exponential gift that we give each other when there's other women that like see you and applaud you and celebrate you and tell you you're fucking great with no agenda, because they just want to see you win, because we can all win. Yeah. There's plenty for everyone. But I think a lot of people have a hard time just being authentic because society is constantly like hammering us down and saying like, you have to be this, you have to be that, you have to look this way on social media, you have to talk this way. It's like, just fucking be yourself though. Like, there's just so much power in this. Yeah. We just never have a chance to like be there, because every which way we're just getting bombarded, and it's, I don't know. I just wish more people could tap into that.
100%. It's crazy because it's like you are yourself, then you're an outcast, and people think that you're so wild and you're not normal, but you conform, and then you're fake. So, like, if you're not winning in either situation, you might as well win in the situation that you're happier.
Yes.
And, like, people are always going to have something to say. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got them. So just do fucking you, because at the end of the day, just as many people as you piss off being your authentic self, you're probably going to make as many friends and acquaintances and people that love you for being that genuine person. And that's something that I kind of had to learn with dating, because it's really easy to get wrapped up in the, I just want him to like me, and not really worry about the, do I even like him? And why does he like me? So I had to kind of get to the point where it's like, I'm not going to pretend to be anyone else for you to then fall in love with that fake person and then me feel like I'm trapped, because I can't be mad at you for falling in love with that person and not wanting me to change, because that's what I presented myself as, even though that wasn't the genuine me. So I had to really be like, okay, if I lose friends, if I lose relationships, if I lose anyone by being my genuine, authentic self, that means they didn't really fucking like me to begin with. And that is like kind of a hard pill to swallow, like the whole, not everyone's supposed to like you.
Nope.
There's billions and billions of people on this planet. If everyone likes you, you're fucking weird and you're tofu and you don't stand for anything.
You just said it, you're tofu.
You know how tofu, you put it in anything and it like takes on the flavor?
That's amazing.
You're tofu. You literally, you get in any room and you just suck in whatever flavor people are most heavily doing so you can fit in to the whole vegetable medley, instead of just like being fucking cilantro.
Listen.
Like, people, cilantro's the best, like, in the other direction, because people either think that shit is soap or they think it's the best thing ever. Like, there's no in between. Like, you don't kind of like cilantro. Either you fucking hate it or you fucking love it. Versus tofu, you can dislike it in one dish and love it in another dish just because of the sauce.
Oh, that's good. Please use that a lot.
100%.
That's fucking good. Because cilantro is just fucking cilantro. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't stop being fucking cilantro. I mean, obviously, these are all great metaphors, but I fucking love that you said that. And I what I have discovered in my new dating world is, you know, people tend to shift and change based on heartbreak, right? Like you get heartbroken or you get ghosted or whatever, and so you're like, oh no, let me change who I am
so it doesn't
for
happen
this
again.
person, so it doesn't happen again. But like, every time you do that, you're changing who the fuck you are. So then by the time you meet maybe someone who might be good for you, you're not even yourself. You can't even recognize yourself. How is that helpful to you?
To anyone.
To anyone.
Because that other person's going to be just as fucking hurt and upset, because they're like, I didn't know I didn't like the real you. I just liked what you showed me, and what you showed me was this person. So I didn't know you weren't this person. I'm not trying to actively dislike the real you. I just have never met her. Literally.
You're two different people.
Two different people.
Yeah. And so what are we doing here? And so why? So to the point, I think it's fucking uncomfortable. It's not easy. You have to constantly work on your self-development and your growth and who you are as a person. But showing up as your fucking self may be lonely, and maybe people fall away, but fuck them, because just like you said, those people weren't meant for me anyway. And I swear it, once you start living authentically that way, the right people show up. Even if it's lonely for a little bit. It's like patience. The universe has all the answers for you. You just gotta chill.
Literally.
You know?
So you've mentioned your ex-husband. You said that you started living authentically 2 years ago. What was that kind of shift in your life?
I mean, like, I was married for 13 years to a wonderful human being. He's really lovely. We have 2 beautiful children. We co-parent really, really well. I was 200 pounds.
No way.
Yes.
4'11" and 200 pounds?
Girl.
Depression.
Worse.
Babies
Fucking,
and depression.
Yeah, it's literally like, it's so many things. Like, society, right? They tell you as a mother, you're supposed to put everybody first except yourself. And
Yes,
so
of
you
course.
buy into this concept, and so you
Because you're a bad mom if you don't do that.
correct.
And nothing is worse. If you think being a bad vegan is bad, like, try being a bad mom. Try being a mom that posts something on social media where you didn't do.
Right.
I'm just trying to survive, man.
Yes.
I haven't slept in 8 years. Like, I watched my mom, like, be a stay-at-home mom and 3 kids. Like, that is stressful.
It's fucking hard. It's fucking hard. Or just being at the park and, like, maybe you want to check your phone for 5 minutes and then the scowls you get. And it's like, fuck you. Like, give me a break. But that's the thing is, like, we live in this society that constantly subjugates women and then tells mothers that, like, this is their only role and this is what they're supposed to do forever. And so I did that. I lived my life for everybody else and I put everybody first and I didn't put me first and I kind of just gave up.
Yeah.
And so I used to be a personal trainer. I was a contestant on American Gladiators in 2008. Like, I wasn't always 200 pounds, right?
Yeah.
I got there because I let myself fucking go to my detriment. Because when you are not happy in your skin, no one else can benefit from who you are as a person because you're just a fucking miserable human being.
Literally.
You're not your best self and it will come out everywhere. My children are so much happier now in this place that I'm in. And I think it just took divorce for sure. It took me living on my own and kind of stepping away from like codependent situations. And I was always an independent person. But when you get married, you think like, oh, you get married, like let the man do everything. You don't have to do anything. You don't need a career. You don't need to be your own person, have your own bank account. You just let him handle everything.
Yeah.
It's fucking bullshit. Let me just say that. And again, he's a great human being. But I think it took that for me to kind of step back into myself and go like, Jessica, who are you as a person? And I did a fuck ton of work, like lots of therapy, reading lots of books, making sure that every little thing that came my way, dating-wise or career-wise or whatever, I sat with it and I figured out how to get through it rather than sweep it under the rug, which is probably what I did for the majority of my life. And then I just started aligning. And then the right people started to show up. And, like, the people that are in my life now make me feel joy 24/7. And I always say this. I say, if something doesn't bring me joy, money, or orgasms, I don't fucking want it, right?
You gotta go.
Like, literally,
You
get
gotta
the fuck
go.
out. Like, we're not doing it.
Literally.
We're not doing it. So
Life's
that's
too
how
short.
I live. Yeah, that's how I live my life now. If I feel an inkling of something off or wrong or whatever, I'm like, no, it's done. I'm not doing this. And, like, we can work on it. We can talk about it. But that's the goal.
Nothing is worse than trying to have a conversation with someone, though, that isn't. You can only meet people where they are.
That.
So, like, trying to have a conversation and, like, save a friendship or a relationship or any type of situation, just knowing, like, you're not even on, like, the level mentally that you can digest what I'm saying to you right now.
Right.
You are stuck in a victim mentality or you're stuck in whatever you're stuck in, but where you're at right now, the place that I'm at, we're vibrating in different spots now. And that's, I think, one of the hardest things about doing self-work and healing your trauma and, like, really raising your vibration is the people that fall off, because that's painful. That's loss of friendships. That's loss of whatever is on that vibrational level that you were unhappy in. They're just as unhappy, first of all. You're leaving it to move up. Unless they're doing the same, they're going to stay there. And you're just going to slowly fall off different jobs, different like hobbies, different foods, different things that you enjoyed doing. I remember one of my huge trauma coping mechanisms in New York was when you're young and you look like a model, you get to go to the club for free. Oh, yes. And all my friends are young and models. So we're all in the club for free, underage, turning up. And it became this thing of like, oh, I'm sad, or this boy didn't answer me, so I'm going to go. I'm going to get fucked up for free, get Ubered home for free. And that just became a thing. And then I started working in the meatpacking district. I worked at Catch. So it was like, okay, I'm a hostess at Catch. I get out at 12 a.m. Do I pay for my own Uber home? Do I have a promoter call my Uber home? If I go to the club, all my friends are at the club. Oh, this boy that I like was at the club. Oh, I'm going to go there. And it became this thing of like, then I'm working as a club promoter. And I remember this night that I was like, drinking might be a bit of a problem for me. I'm just going to go. I'm working tonight, so I have to be there, but I'm not going to drink. And I just sat in the club and I was like, ooh, I hate this. And it was crazy because it's something I had been doing for like 5 years of my life, 6 nights a week. Like, it went from me participating it to me leading it and like being in charge of people coming and getting paid to bring girls to the club. And then I just literally sat here and I was like, I fucking hate this. It's a whole bunch of people that literally spend a shit ton of money for other people to think they're important. And when you have that realization, you start connecting, like, this isn't a bunch of people having fun in a space, which is what it is when you're like 18 in the club and it's new. Like, you're like, I'm with my friends, we're having fun, fuck parents, no rules. But like, then you realize there's like 40-year-old men in the club. And there's like these weird people that like kind of become predators and start looking for hot girls. And that's why you're getting paid to be there. For the old weird men. And then I was like, wait, like all this stuff started like
the light
glass,
turned on.
literally
Whoa.
glass breaking in my head. I'm like, I fucking hate this. I know my money's attached to this shit right now. I'm saving up to move to LA. So I know I have to do this. And it just became this thing of right before I left for LA, my parents kind of pulled me aside and they were like, we're worried for you. Like, this is going down a really wrong path. And I just remember looking at them and being like, I completely understand. I know exactly what I'm going through. I had just gotten out of a really toxic, abusive relationship. I was just like finding myself. I didn't even know what I liked anymore. So I was just like, if it makes me happy, I'm doing it. I'm not even questioning it.
Yes.
I just need to find out what brings me joy. And I was like, I know right now I'm on such the wrong path and doing such wrong things, but I know that it's important for my development and my growth right now, and it's not going to be forever. Like, you're not going to lose me. I just remember having that very distinct conversation with him. Like, I'm not off the rails with no idea that I'm off the rails. I'm very aware that I'm off the rails right now. It's part of why I'm moving across the fucking country, because I feel like the same way like waterfalls keep going in the same spot and they create that groove and it's a waterfall. And if you're like, oh, okay, water, that's a bad groove. Go over there a little bit to the left. That's where you should be streaming. Like, that's never going to fucking happen. There were just so many times I was like, I'm not going to club this week. I'm just going to go straight home after work, and then it's someone's birthday. Right. Or Ubers are too expensive, so I know I can get home for free then. I'm a hostess. Like, I'm not about to spend $60 to get home when I'm making $20 an hour. Like, that's half my shift to get home. Absolutely not. So there were just so many little grooves in my life that the water was so effortlessly flowing through that I could not break those patterns and those habits. And I knew I needed to literally leave. I knew I needed to be unreachable. I knew every promoter needed to stop knowing that I was in Manhattan. I knew every friend that I had made out needed to know that I wasn't there to be asked to go anymore. And I moved to LA and I literally slept for like a month. Wow. I could not stop sleeping. So exhausted, so tired. My best friend did the same thing. She moved to LA and she like 2 or 3 months. And when I made her move out here, she was working 2 jobs. She was going to school and she had just graduated. I was like, you got to get the fuck out of New York. And I miss you. So like, please come here. And she came and she slept. And she was like, I feel like such a, because, you know, coming from New York, like it's hustle, 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 hustle. Like, don't sleep, don't breathe, don't even fucking stop for a second to question anything. And LA is like, what's your quality of life though? What's your vibe? What are you reading? What yoga class are you going to? And New York's like, how am I going to make money so I don't fucking die? Right. How am I going to afford a Canada Goose? Because that's the only thing that keeps me cold, like warm in the cold. Like, there's just such a different set of priorities. And I was like, listen, like, I did the same thing. You're basically catching up on all the sleep you haven't done for the past 6 years while you were in school working 2 jobs.
Yes. And your body fucking told you, stop.
I literally, when I moved to LA, I thought I was dying. I was on so much like metabolism accelerators and shit just so I could like keep food, because I couldn't work out because I was working all the time. So I'm like, how am I going to stay thin and like do that shit? I'm eating like only salmon and greens because I was pescatarian at the time. I just like felt like my teeth were loose, like my skin was like sour. I just looked horrible because the majority of what I consumed was tequila.
Oh my
literally
God. You went through a New
tequila
York
and no
detox.
sleep. And I just remember my parents came out to visit me, not the first time, but the second time they came out, they were like, I was like, what? They were like, you look like our child again. Aww. And I was like, what do you mean? They were like, when I tell you, even my hair just nasty and brittle, and I like always had like nice hair. It was just the weirdest thing. And there were so many side effects that I didn't even know like that's where it was coming from. I was like, oh, I need to take biotin. My hair is fucked up. Like, I need to take biotin, not thinking like maybe you should consume some vitamins and nutrients and minerals, you know, just maybe. Which is crazy to think now, because 5 years later, I'm like yelling at people about sea moss and burdock root and like drinking my chlorophyll and freaking apple cider vinegar in the morning in Ormus. I'm like, who is this bitch? Like, this bitch, if I would have met me right when I moved to LA or like right before I did, I'd be like, oh, sweetie, oh my God, we need to get you some shrooms. We need to
tequila here.
Literally,
please.
what is? Oh no, no, you need some weed, baby girl. Like you need to sleep. Can we get some kale in here?
Smoke it with your weed. Don't
Literally,
worry,
there were just so many terrible things that I was doing, and the second time that kind of brought me out of, because you get to LA and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that shit, but you find that that just leads to other coping mechanisms if you don't figure out why you were doing that shit. So I had let go of my attachment to like clubbing and alcohol and replaced it with like human interaction. Like I was that person that I always needed to have someone coming over. I always needed to be like talking to my friends or on FaceTime. Like I always needed that distraction of another human being. Sure. And COVID was like, that's cute. If you see anyone, you could die. So I just like stayed in my room and did shrooms and realized like I had a serious attachment to not being alone and not wanting to be with my own thoughts. And I'm like, why is that? Interesting. And finally having the time where life was like dead to sit and be like, oh, it's because if I actually am alone by myself, I start thinking about all the things like that negative talk comes up and those things that you don't want to think about are the things you don't want to heal through or like actually release. I was trying so hard not to feel that shit and not to feel those. I used to say like, oh my God, I never cry. I'm just like not one of those people that like doesn't cry. I did shrooms for the first bawling. I'm like, the waterfall is so pretty. I don't even know I'm crying. Like laughing hysterically. That's like one of the first things I can tell when people have like a barrier up with their emotions when they take shrooms and they start hysterically laughing and it turns into crying. Oh shit. And they're like, I don't even know why I'm crying. I'm like, you're crying because you are feeling an extreme, overwhelming amount of emotion. And for the first time, you have no ability to close it off. Like you have no blocking ability, and which is why it's very terrifying to do shrooms in like public settings.
By the way, total fucking side note, I have been talking about shrooms for months, and every fucking person I talk to gives me such great advice because I've never done it before. So thank you for the little tidbits because it's
okay, let's do it. We're gonna do quick advice on shrooms. There's like a few things that I always say if it's your first time doing shrooms. Here's some things you should know. Okay. Number one, those people that are like, oh my God, it's so scary. You're going to fall into some type of hole and you're not going to know what's happening and blah, blah, blah. No. Shrooms amplify whatever you're feeling. And if you have some shit that you're trying to actively not feel or like keep suppressed, shrooms are like, oh no, we're going to deal with that. So like that's why I was doing a lot of shrooms during COVID because I was like, okay, there's a lot of shit that I'm actively trying not to feel. How do I actively try to feel them? How do I kind of break that barrier for myself of like, because weed numbs. Right. Weed makes you like, oh, everything's fine. I don't even care. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I've done that enough. I need to actually figure out why the fuck I want to do these things that are so detrimental to my health and my mental state. Why am I trying to escape like that? And once I kind of started doing shrooms and figuring that shit out, I realized, okay, if I go into shrooms with the intention to like show me some shit that I'm not seeing that's going to help me get to the next level, it's probably going to be more of a sad shroom trip. It's probably going to be more of something that I should do either by myself or do with a few close friends, where if I'm like actually crying about something traumatic that happened to me because it's coming up, it's going to be people that are going to understand and make it a safe space. Yeah. Versus you can go into shrooms. It's all about intentions to me. That's plant medicine. That's something that the shamans were doing. Like, we're not talking about fucking MDMA. Like, we're talking about something that grows from the ground and you eat it and it has the same freaking thing as brain pathways. Like, this is all things that if you do your research, if you watch like How to Change Your Mind on Netflix, like do that shit, like educate yourself. Don't just take some shrooms because someone told you to. Yes. But it amplifies whatever you're feeling. Whatever intention you set is kind of the shroom trip you're going to have. So if you kind of go into it scared, then you're going to amplify your fear. Ooh. If you go into it excited, like, what is this going to show me? What am I going to process? Like, if you get sad, so who fucking cares? Like, get sad, like, feel that fully. And that's when I really learned, like, the actual meaning behind you have to feel to heal. Because it's like one of the things you say like flippantly, like you got to feel to heal. And it's like, yeah you got to cry. Sure. But I was always the person, like, when you start crying, you don't want people to hear. Like, even by myself in my room, I would like stifle my cries. Like, why would you not just feel that to the full extent? And I think about it like a Band-Aid ripping off. Like, either you can kind of pick at it and peel it and it's going to hurt just as much as if you rip it off. Like, faster. Every time you kind of go through an emotion, either you can feel it fully and fully release it, or you can like go through it in bite-sized pieces, and shrooms don't allow you to bite-sized piece it. Shrooms are like, feel it, get it the fuck out. So that's why I love shrooms. And anytime I'm like actively trying to stay away from them, I'm like, oh, you got something to tell me.
Oh, interesting.
You got something to tell me, and I'm scared, but I'm going to listen.
Let's go. Because what I'm getting from you, though, is that, like, even though you had these really intense emotions and things that you were working through, it was beneficial to you because 100%. You came out a different person.
100%.
And so you're like, every time I'm feeling like stay the fuck away, what am I going to learn? Because I'm going to be better after this experience. So don't run away from it. And I've heard this. I've also heard, to the point, like, shrooms will always win. So if you're trying to, like, fight it or you're trying to, it's not going to happen. You just got to release and let go and allow the shrooms to do what they're going to do, which is why it's good to be with people you know. These
and
are
what
just things I've heard.
People don't understand is it's not like alcohol where it's like you get drunk, you're wasted, you fall asleep, you're like hungover. Shrooms are like, and we're up, and we're down. And you'll be at one point like, oh, I don't even feel these anymore. And then like you'll look at something and you'll be like, and so like start hysterically laughing and it's not even fucking funny. And you're like, oh no, they're still here. We're still on this roller coaster. That is a huge thing. And your environment is heavily important. Mm-hmm. I've done shrooms in an environment that I should not do shrooms. You can party on like micros, but I wouldn't suggest doing like a large amount and partying just because you're like your barriers that you kind of, your boundaries that you put up, you're like put in a childlike state almost, where it's like you get excited to see nature. Like butterflies really genuinely excite you, and like that's super cool. But also like someone not understanding that, like if you're out at a party and someone like kind of pushes you and like you're like, oh my god, like he pushed me, like, and they're not like, oh my god, so sorry. They're like, watch your fucking way. Like that actually hurts. Because you don't have those boundaries up, like, as being an adult. Like, yo, fuck you. Like, don't tell me watch my... You bumped me. Like, you're like, oh. But then, like, you kind of have to, like, get your adult brain on of, like, what trauma is that person going through that they fucking bumped me and cursed me out for, like, being a little, like, oh, like, you know, you kind of have to, like, warp your brain in that way. So when I did it in the beginning... I would try to stay away from anyone that is just, like... I always say, like, the environment is important. Like, you can't have uncontrolled... like substances in there, like people that you don't know how their energy is going to be, like those women that you talk about that are amazing, they just want to see you win, that if you started crying would truly comfort you. Those are the people you do shrooms around. You don't do shrooms around like random strangers that would be like, yo, this bitch is fucking crying. Like that's not the energy, because you feel that energy and then you're even more upset because first you were crying because of your trauma, now you're crying because the energy of people being mean to you while you're trying to process your trauma.
Extra
it's just
fucking trauma.
Too fucking much.
Do the extra trauma. That's what I've heard. Like, be in nature, don't have shit going on, turn your phone off.
Don't touch your phone, because anything can warp your entire mood.
That's what I've heard.
Your entire energy can change because something you can't even control. You get a text, and you look at it, and it's some fuck shit, and you're on shrooms. You can't control that. You can't be like, oh, I'm just going to put that away.
It's in there now.
Literally, it's in there. And it's deep in there, and it's going, because you're on shroom brain now.
Right. Ooh. I'm actually excited now.
Are your kids vegan?
Yes.
Yeah. Is your husband?
My ex-husband is vegan. He'll have like every now and then he'll have like a McFlurry or something, which I can't control. I mean, I didn't control it back then either. Yeah, it is. I don't judge you. But it's funny you say like feel your feelings and all that, because I was thinking as you were saying that, I just had a conversation with my oldest son who's 9 about this, because he represses his tears. Oh. And I don't know why, and I'm trying to help him through that, because he's like, I just don't want to, Mama. I just don't want to. And I'm like, baby, it's important.
It's important, highly important.
You have to get this out. I'm like, you cry for a reason. And I explained to him the only way out is through. The only, you know, like you have to get through it. And I love that you said that, because I feel like as adults, this is pushed out of us.
Yep.
So much, where it's like, no, just fucking go. Especially as New Yorkers, Jesus Christ. Like, I don't give a fuck what's happening in your life. You have to move. You have to grind. You have to hustle. You have to go. If you're having a heartbreak, doesn't matter. If you don't have money for dinner tonight, doesn't matter. You gotta move. You gotta hustle. There's no break in your life.
Because whatever is bad is gonna get worse if you're not moving in New York.
Correct.
Like whatever problem is gonna get way worse without the movement.
Correct. So like, and that's just New York, but like in general, we just stifle these emotions, especially men, right? So now I have the very hard job of making sure that my boys who will be men can feel their emotions 100%. And like deal with them and not be scared of them or whatever. And that's very tricky, because they don't understand. They're 9 and 6 and they're just like, I don't know. I just don't want to do that. I don't want anybody to see me crying. And I'm like, all right, we're going to have to deal with this.
I would ask him if someone at school made fun of him for crying or something.
I'll ask him.
It usually comes from bullying.
Somewhere,
Like when kids start changing, I always say like, your whole life is kind of this journey to get back to when you were a kid before people started telling you that things about you were wrong or bad.
Yeah.
So like he may have cried in front of the wrong bully who made him feel horrible for it. And he's like, I'm never going to cry again. I'm never going to feel like that again. So I would just ask him like, what happened? Like, did you cry and someone made fun of you for it or something? Like, kind of dig into that.
And that's the other thing, right? It's like, because there's a delicate dance with that. Because there's this one guy I follow on social media who's wonderful. He talks a lot about, like, people ask him about his trauma because he talks a lot about polyamory and sort of like this world of kinks and what have you. And so people will ask him on his Q&As, like, what do you think about your trauma informing your kinks and whatever? He's like, I don't think anything about my trauma because, like, sitting down with my, like, why I'm the way I am doesn't help me. I just know that this is where I'm at, and as long as I'm not hurting anyone, and as long as it's consensual, and and I love that because I'm like, oh, fascinating, because we always want to get to the root of shit, right? Like, and I don't think it's wrong what you're saying at all in any way. I do want to know why my child doesn't want to cry, so I'm going to ask him. But to the point, we do that a lot, right? It's like, why? And a lot of places, this is great to ask yourself, like, okay, what's my fucking attachment style? What happened to me as a kid?
What's my love language?
What's my love language? Like all these little things, and you should know all of that stuff. But I find it really also kind of magical when you're like, this is where I'm at. How do I deal now? Like, how do I sit with my emotions? How do I get through? And so maybe as a fucking adult, it's shrooms. I mean, that's what I'm getting out of this.
I mean, I microdose for like general depression, anxiety reasons, like just literally an amount that you can't even freaking, nothing is happening audibly, visibly, anything to you. Like I'm not hysterically crying at a random gas station, but it's just like a little bit enough that you truly feel just like more positive. That's like the only way I can describe it is like, I just feel more excited about my day. And the only thing that's ever made me feel like that, which is horrible, is Adderall, because I've been prescribed Adderall because of ADD. Right. And I, for a long time, was like, I hate this, because my family's so holistic. Like, they told my parents I had ADD. My mom was like, nah, fuck that shit. She's put her in a harder class so she could focus then. She's probably bored. And that's actually what happened and what was done. And I excelled. And it wasn't until I was older as an adult that, like, I went in, I was like 20 or 21, and they're like, oh, well, you have ADD. Like, I can't believe your parents didn't put you on Adderall. Your life would have been so much easier, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh my God, fuck my parents. They set me up for failure. Like, I'm going to start taking Adderall. I took it for maybe a week. I was like, I feel like a fucking crackhead. But I'm like, but I'm so productive. But I felt like someone turned off my emotions, turned off my creativity, and just like turned me into a machine. So I'm being really productive and I'm getting shit done, but I have zero creativity or like lust for life at all. So the only thing that's ever been able to like focus my brain like that is microdosing. I love that. Which is something I find crazy that it's like technically not fully legal or accepted or whatever, when it's like Adderall is meth. So like why can I take meth? Why are y'all giving kids meth, but something that grows out of the ground like a mushroom
is a problem?
Is a huge fucking problem. I've just never understood that.
That's interesting.
It's wild.
That's a really good point. Yeah. But, you know, it's all about money.
Yep.
End of the day.
That's the thing about the book I'm reading. He went to med school. And
it's Michael Greger, right? Is that his name? Yeah.
He literally went to med school, and he was like, throughout my med school, do you know how many big pharma companies took me out to dinners and nice steak dinners, all this shit? You know who never took me out to dinner? Big Broccoli.
Big Broccoli?
He's like, because no one's fucking making money from promoting that you should eat broccoli. There's no kale industry that's about to make billions of dollars by getting you to eat kale. Treating like diseases that haven't happened yet and preventing them, preventative treatment, is not beneficial to anyone trying to make money. Therefore, it's not even really fucking taught in med school, because you're not spending all that money to learn how to not make money.
Ooh, facts.
You know? So that's when I started to think about, like, why aren't you hearing about these things? Why do you see 75 commercials for different things to fix you, different pills you can take, but you never see anything? You never see a commercial for plant-based, like, we're advocating for plant-based. Look at all the research that we've done that shows the cholesterol in your blood and blah. Like, you don't see commercials like that because no one's making money off of that. The closest you get is like someone writes a book, someone has a talk show, someone makes a movie, and they're promoting that, but they're never really promoting like eat fucking healthy. Put down the unhealthy food and watch how your life improves. Like, the problems that you're having most likely will disappear. My father, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, vegan, plant-based. This man, they're like, your blood is completely clean. What did you start taking? I just stopped eating meat.
Isn't that crazy?
I just stopped consuming animal products and my cholesterol went down. Yeah. And my huge thing, I literally called him because I was like, thank you so much for doing this as I'm learning this. Like, people lose their parents at like 60 sometimes,
It's preventable.
55, and they don't have to like diabetes, which is literally just a disease that you get from being overweight and not eating the right amount of food. So like, how are people dying of this thing that is so easily not a problem if you eat the proper diet? Why is no one telling these people, you don't have to take this pill if you can reduce your food consumption to X, Y, and Z if you stay on this diet? They looked at people that got gastric bypasses, and they were like, wait, this is so like helpful for people. Look at all their blood cholesterol and everything coming down. But what they really actually found out through testing it more with the study is it wasn't the surgery. It was the extremely restrictive diet that they get put on for the month after the surgery.
Well,
so then they put people on the diet without the surgery, and it was just as successful with none of the side effects of going under the knife and having half your stomach cut out. But who's talking about this?
This is nobody.
No one's fucking talking about this because do you know how much money gets made off of gastric bypass surgery? You know how much money gets made off of people not needing it? Zero.
No, it's absolutely fucking true. And people don't like change, and that's the reality. I will never forget this as long as I live. The year I went vegan, I spent home, and it was Thanksgiving, and I don't celebrate Thanksgiving anymore, but my mom was like, oh, come to your grandma's house. So I go there, and my grandmother and her husband are there, and, like, I'm in a tiny table, like, damn near this size, and the bird is, like, a third of it. And I was like, the fuck? I couldn't get away from it.
But first of all, how the fuck is that bird that big?
Listen.
Side note.
We can totally talk about that one day, right? Like, that is not normal.
No.
You're about to eat that. It's a fucking mutant, and that goes into your body. So, you know. But so he's asking me because I'm like, oh, I can't eat this. And he's like, why? I'm like, he gave me shit, this old man, my grandmother's husband. And I was like, oh, I just, you know, like, it's an ethical thing, whatever, however I explain it. And he was like, I don't care. He's like, this is literally to me. He's like, I don't give a shit. He said, I'd rather die happy than die miserable without meat. And here's what's fucked up about that. This is what's the most fucked up about this. 2 years later,
he died.
Dies of a fucking heart attack in front of my grandmother. So the reality is, listen, we're all going to fucking die, right? It's going to happen. It's the most inevitable thing you could ever know in your lifetime. Fine. However, the fact that you did something that you maybe could have prevented, and you did it in front of your fucking wife, who's scarred forever now, because you just are so afraid of change or being open to any ideas outside of what you know. And I understand it because it's hard for people.
It's hard.
It's hard for people. Like, you're accustomed, you're used to it. You know these 6 animals. You know how to cook them all. You know how to make it. You know how to make it taste amazing. You love the experience of barbecuing. I get it. However, for me, what I think is very important is knowing the options, which is what you said earlier. And when you know you have options, you can make better choices. But if you're like, I'm just sticking to this shit, I'm telling you right now, like, you're going to hurt somebody in the process, whether it's yourself or somebody else, and it doesn't need to be that way. So, you know, now we're on the plant-based side of things, and I was 200 pounds, and now I'm not. So I went more healthy, and that's what I live my life for. And I don't like the fact that I didn't like that I couldn't walk and I couldn't move and I couldn't go upstairs. Like, that's what was fucking me up. Yeah. But also, when you think about it in the future, I don't want to fucking die in front of somebody from something that I could prevent.
100%.
Simple.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here. I loved this whole conversation. I'm obsessed with this one. And is there anything else that you want to tell the spillers? Let them know just your handles again on social media, anything you want to promote.
Yeah, sure. So you can find us at Vegan Street Fair. You can find us at Vegan Exchange LA. That's the weekly market. And then Vegan Street Fair is coming up. Vegan Street Fair Nights is coming up in October 8th and 9th. So it's coming up very soon. Oh my God, I can't believe I just reminded myself of that. Free entry, family friendly. There's going to be like 200 vendors there from all over the place. There's going to be a DJ. It's going to be really fun in North Hollywood. So I'd love to see you there. Definitely engage with us on social. If you see us, I eat on camera, so make comments about it. I love it. It makes it fun for me. And yeah, I had a great time. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And as per usual, I'm Tori212 Green on all platforms. Tea with Tori podcast on Instagram. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and download. I will see you spillers next Wednesday. Bye.